It's time for your Heli Life giveaway secret word. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's secret word is flight. Visit contests.verticalhelicast.com to enter the secret word.
What's going on, guys? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast, and I am coming at you with an awesome episode today. In fact, this is an episode that I've wanted to record for a long time, just haven't really had the right connections to make it happen. And then recently, MHM Publishing came in big. Obviously, MHM is the vertical magazine, the Valor, the Skies publication. They're the parent company of HeliCASTS, this platform that we're on here. And they're like, hey, Halsey, can you interview Eric from Operation Helo? And I'm like, well, absolutely. So we scrambled last minute. Actually, last week we emailed. He got back to us. And so I am so excited to have Eric Robinson on the Helicopter Podcast today and learn all about Operation Helo, what that's all about, the rescue efforts that happened during the aftermath of Helene, recent events in Kerrville, which is near and dear to me because I lived 20 minutes away from Kerrville for the last 10 years practically. So very familiar with that area and just excited to chat with Eric. Before we get into it, MHM, you're the best. Thank you for creating this platform, the Vertical HeliCast platform. If you just listen to my podcast, thank you. But you should check out the other podcasts on the platform. We got the Hangar Z podcast, focused on law enforcement. The Real Rescue with my boy Jason Quinn. I just had him on, rescue swimmer number 500, telling stories of survival and rescue and all the cool things in the space that he was in. We have the Valor Flight Crew, which is kind of air medical centric, super awesome dudes. Just had them on the podcast as well. And of course, rounded out with the Vertical MRO. We can't forget about our maintenance friends within the business. So man, Vertical HeliCast, your one-stop shop for everything in this industry and podcasting. So Eric, that was a long intro. Welcome to the Helicopter Podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Man, fantastic. And good job on that. I'd fumble my way through that one for sure. Good job.
Well, fake it till you make it. I've been kind of saying the same stuff now for, 150 plus episodes. So it's a little just ingrained, there in the mental state. But man, this is, such an exciting thing. I've been watching Operation Helo a little bit from the sidelines, to be honest, following along and just seeing what's happening. Seeing that you guys were recently at, Air Adventure with the collaboration with Robinson Helicopters.
Yep.
So I'm excited to learn about that and what that's all about. Robinson Helicopters, of course, a proud sponsor of this podcast. So love talking about those guys and their support. And, I know David and the team very well. So excited to hear about that. You have the perfect last name, by the way.
No
for that
affiliation, unfortunately, so I'm not part of the family, but I'm gonna try to get in there somehow.
Man, well, it looks like you're getting there already. But yeah, it's funny. It's I have another friend that's in the helicopter space, and his last name is Robinson as well. So I just kind of find it funny. But let's just talk a little bit. Let's start with you. I know that you're not actually big in necessarily flying helicopters. Sounds like about 75 hours of flight time.
Yeah.
Mainly in the airplane space. Entrepreneur, Acme Suspension, which I think is a very well-known brand for fixed wing and suspension for fixed wing aircraft.
Yep.
But yeah, what's your story, my friend?
So I guess my aviation journey began early on. My dad was a helicopter pilot, flew in Vietnam, DFC recipient, Bronze Star with Valor, all that good stuff. So So I would say flying is in my blood. I always wanted to do it from the time I could walk, and saw kind of what my dad did. Kind of carried on, and hopefully in the hopes of carrying on in his footsteps, I joined the military after a couple failed attempts at college, with the hopes of going into the warrant officer program. And that didn't work out. So ultimately got out because I wanted to fly. Then life happens, just like it does with everybody else. Found myself married with a couple kids and in a commercial construction company. I had one of those kind of sort of around that time, 2011-ish. A good buddy of mine from church came to me and said, "Hey, man, I have an opportunity with Just Aircraft." And they had just come out with a Superstall. And they had a hard time meeting demand because the wings were really hard to build. So Just Aircraft contacted my buddy, Matt McSwain, and ultimately was like, "Can you help fabricate these?" So he got with me, asked if I wanted to help. And I was like, "Man, I got this commercial construction stuff going on." And then one thing led to another. And then ultimately I just said, "Yeah, you know what, let's do it." So kind of jumped into that and founded Acme Aero with my buddy, Matt McSwain. And that really began my aviation journey. Obviously, being in the industry at that time, I was like, well, if I'm going to be in the industry, I have to fly now. So started my PPL back in 2011, and ended up getting my fixed wing rating. Helicopters were never going to be a thing. I mean, it was just there to privately get that add-on is pretty expensive. So I just kind of wrote helicopters off, but put my head down, and we grew Acme. Once we got into the industry and started looking around in the backcountry world, we noticed that Super Cubs in general, kind of where we were playing, they were landing on technology from the 1940s, the bungee systems and the hydrosorbs and all that.
Yeah.
And we thought we could do better. So we came out with a pull shock. And, I tell the story all the time. We were walking around Sun and Fun holding a shock to replace these bungees. To me, it's a no-brainer, but we were literally begging people to talk to us, and they were like, "Nope, not going to work. We're not doing it." So finally, American Legend gave us a shot, and he came back. He's like, "They're great. I'll take them." And then it kind of snowballed from there. California Cubs got us in with Cub Crafters, and we came out with a couple of different iterations, and one thing led to another, and ultimately we were I would say still kind of the premier suspension manufacturer in the backcountry world. That's kind of how I got into aviation. Again, all my time is in Super Cubs, honestly. It's all tail dragger stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, I was flying a 182 not too long ago, and I was almost scared that I didn't know how to land a tricycle gear. So that's kind of my background and how I got into aviation.
Yeah, that's really, it's really fascinating. I love hearing the different paths that people take to ultimately end up at where you're at. And what I like most is I like the path that is like less likely, right? So I love this idea, and I think it's really cool for listeners. A lot of our listener base, I think, is a little bit younger and probably trying to work out their career, and they might have this idea of what they think they're going to do.
Yeah.
And then things happen, like you said, life happens, good things, right? You get married,
all good stuff.
You have some kids, you're having a career, you're putting food on the table.
Yeah.
And then somehow, some way, the universe, has a right of wanting equilibrium. For you, it was aviation, right? Like it was like just your destiny.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have the opportunity to see the gap, in making the wings, and then of course the suspension. It's just cool. It seemed like it was probably supposed to be your path from the very beginning, but how you got there was not a straight line. And I think that's important, just an important life example of like, look, it's good to have a plan, but you got to be flexible, right?
Absolutely. Adaptability is a big one.
Yep. And you got to be open too. You got to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to maybe take this chance, right? For me and my entrepreneurial journey, I took a big chance for me and my family, right? It was a financial risk for me to leave a salaried position with good benefits.
Yep.
And now I look back at it and I'm really glad that I did. And my life is better for it. But man, there was like a 2-3 year period where it didn't really seemed like it was the best idea,
Yeah.
And then sometimes I still don't know if it's the right idea, Sometimes I'm banging my head against the wall, but I just think it's really neat to kind of hear that. And it's really cool that your dad was a Vietnam helicopter pilot. Talk about, I look at a group of individuals, like when I watch, say, Band of Brothers,
Yep.
and I'm learning about those guys, I think, man, those guys were bred differently, right?
Yeah.
And the trench warfare and everything that they were going through with Easy Company. Well, I kind of feel the same way about Vietnam helicopter pilots. I've had the opportunity to fly with a few and get to know them. What was your dad like as a guy? Like, what was that like having your dad probably going through some pretty intense experiences in Vietnam in a helicopter?
Yep.
What was that like for him? And what's I'm just curious to hear about that.
At Astronautics, we're aviation problem solvers. With over 60 years of OEM and retrofit experience, bring us your toughest avionics, connectivity, cybersecurity, and system challenges. We'll work with you to find an innovative, reliable, and quality solution. We turn problems into solutions. Visit us at astronautics.com.
So, my dad was he was a hard man. And this was all, I would say mostly anyway, due to his experiences in Vietnam. He left to go overseas. He was a college athlete, two-sport athlete, life of the party, from what I understand. Obviously, I wasn't here yet, but that's, my dad was kind of bigger than life. Came back an alcoholic, smoked 3 packs a day, and was very closed off.
Yeah.
So, he wrote a memoir because he knew that my brother and I would ask about it. And he never talked about it ever. He handed me that memoir when I was on the bus going to basic training. So I got to read that while I was in basic training. And the stuff that he went through was, it's unspeakable, really. So he was a very closed off, very hard man, even to the point where I thought my dad didn't like me. So, we go through life and, your dad's usually most likely your hero, and he always was my hero. But again, it was a weird dichotomy because I thought he didn't like me. So I thought, kind of once I started flying, this is going to be our opportunity, right? We're going to connect finally. And so I start flying, and he had retired. He had been retired 2-3 years by then. And again, he was career military. Once he got out of Vietnam, he transitioned over to the North Carolina Army National Guard, and he was in charge of Raid West, which was drug eradication in Western North Carolina.
Okay.
And he also transitioned over into the warrant ranks. Came out, he was commissioned, came out, went into the Guard as a warrant. But then ultimately he retired as a W-5 with over 20,000 hours. So he retires, I get my ticket, and I'm like, this is our opportunity. So I go to him, I was like, Dad, come on, let's go flying. And the first thing he said is, you don't have enough hours for me.
Smart man.
I said, okay, all right, well, I get that. He said, come see me when you got some more hours. So, all right, I show back up. I got a couple thousand hours at this point. I'm like, all right, Dad, got a couple thousand hours. Let's go flying. And he said, you know what? I spent 20,000 hours with a helicopter strapped to my butt. I'm good. I would ask him every now and then, and it was always same answer, right? So he ends up, he gets sick in 2023, May of 2023. We kind of diagnosed some things and wasn't looking good for him. And so, he goes into assisted living, and, we would have conversations during then of, all right, man, we get you out of here. You're going to go fly with me. Right. And he finally conceded and said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. As soon as I get out of here, we'll do it. Well, unfortunately, he never made it out. And so, that was a tough one. I always wanted to fly with my dad.
Yeah.
And again, kind of looking back at throughout this entire journey, I'm like, man, my dad doesn't even like me, right? It's just, he tolerates me. But again, I think it's just a product of his environment, where he came from, the stuff he saw. He was just very closed off. So, I was there, and not to get too down in the weeds on this one, but it is actually kind of a cool story. To bring it all full circle, I was there. I was actually going on a trip for work. in 2023, August 16, 2023. And hospice, I'd called hospice and I said, hey, I have a trip for work. They said, he's probably got 2 weeks. You're good. So I was like, okay, cool. I was going to slide in to see him prior to. And I'm in the parking lot and the facility calls and they said, hey, he's not doing good. You need to come in. I was like, well, I'm in the parking lot. I'll be in 2 seconds. So I go upstairs and they looked at me and they were like, we'll give you some time with him. And I was like, is it that bad? Because my brother, I mean, he was up talking to my brother the previous night. And I walked in and he wasn't responsive. He was still breathing. And I kind of rubbed his head a little bit. And I said, Dad, I love you. And I'll see you soon, buddy. And then that was his last breath. And so, of course, I'm waterworks and I'm boohooing and I gather myself. I walk out and I'm going to make some phone calls to the family and whatnot. And I get on the elevator and the maintenance man's sitting there. And he said, man, I'm sorry about your dad. I said, I appreciate that. And he said, are you the one that flies? And I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, man, he talked about you all the time. So, to me, it was he just didn't know how to express it. He had been through so much, had seen so much. He didn't know how to express it. But man, I carry that with me now of like, okay, he did like me. So we're good. We're good. I'm not carrying that scar around anymore. But
yeah, that's great. I mean, it's a beautiful story. I'm lucky enough to have my dad, and you said August 16th. So, condolences on an anniversary of your dad passing. And a father-son relationship can be complicated. I'm very lucky that mine was very uncomplicated. I had a dad he had a horrible relationship with his father. And, I think it was emotional, physical, you name it, to a point where I don't think my dad wanted kids because he didn't have any type of positive mentorship on how to be a good dad.
Sure,
and then, he has us and, it's complete opposite. He's like the most loving, soft guy. I'm very soft. I'm tearing up hearing the story over here. I'm like, okay, hold it together. I get that. I get that.
That exact same thing. Like my son flies now. He just got his ticket not too long ago.
Oh man.
And so any opportunity I get to fly with him, I do it. But yeah, I think
that's so cool.
I went the opposite route. And I'm the same as you.
That's how my dad is. I hope I just had my first kid actually, like 9-10 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And yeah, it's the most incredible thing. And, I'm hoping that with my dad's positive example, I can be half the dad that he's been to me.
That's awesome.
Because he's my biggest fan, to this day. I've actually kind of become a bit of a closed off person. I think I think maybe you can relate. Maybe when you have your own business, it can be a little bit isolating sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Not everyone chooses a path of going and doing your own thing on business. And I wouldn't change it for the world, but there can be some times where you feel like you can't really relate to too many people. And that's how I kind of feel sometimes with my family. Like I can't, they ask me about my day and it's like, well, what do I tell them? Like, do they really want to know about my day? The swing. So I've kind of closed down a little bit and I'm trying to work on that, honestly, because my dad specifically, he's so proud of me, and I just I kind of closed down a little bit because I don't know how to share that emotion or whatever. It's kind of weird. I don't know why I'm even talking about it, but
no, I get it. I totally understand.
It's just a weird, it's a weird thing because man, I'm like he's my biggest fan, if that makes sense, Yeah.
And somebody told me one time those people love me and they want to share what I have to say simply because out of that love. I mean, they might not be super interested, but it was almost like I did that same thing. I was robbing them the opportunity to connect with me because I thought they didn't want to hear it. So
and that's kind of that's a great way to put it. Like I think he may not understand what I do or even care to, but he cares to hear, I guess, right?
That's it.
Even last night it's his birthday and we're out to dinner and I'm like, I don't always know how to articulate myself, when he's being so proud of me. Just stop, but the father-son relationship is incredible. But can be complicated. My dad's brother, actually, Johnny, my uncle Johnny, was in Vietnam, not as an aviator, ground and pound guy, saw a lot of horrible things. And I never knew my Uncle Johnny to be anything except a raging alcoholic, a nice, loving man that drank so much that he would, have a seizure if he didn't drink, right? He tried to be sober for my grandmother's funeral and ended up in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
I have good blood, though. The guy lived until he was like 78 years old or something. So, Vietnam was very challenging. I mean, I think a lot of our veterans, not just Vietnam, Desert Storm, even our most recent wars, we don't do a great job at supporting the young men and women that go and support our country. And I think it's changing. I think there's a tide. I think there's a shift in understanding PTSD and mental health and all of that. So, I really hope that we can do a better job at supporting our veterans. Before the show was recording, I was talking about some of the charitable stuff we've done. And in the past, we donated extensively to a nonprofit called the Dirt Therapy Project. And it was a really cool initiative that was putting veterans on mountain bikes, out of all things. Started by a guy named Jonathan, who is a Marine, really helped his PTSD to get on the trail. And that was a really neat organization to be a part of. They actually ended up, I think, getting absorbed by a larger nonprofit, and we were able to kind of do everything that we wanted to do with them, and they're still thriving to this day. So, super cool to have things like that. But I think as a government, we have a responsibility too. But that's probably a different podcast than this current one that we're on.
This is time.
So you're in aviation, Acme Suspension, a well-known brand, specifically, in that backcountry fixed wing world, which admittedly is not a world that I'm super familiar with. I just met Trent Palmer recently. I did some flying with him in a helicopter. Took him in an EC-130, and he was showing me some of the areas where he lands out there and just outside of Reno. And man, that's there's some pretty tight spaces that these airplanes are able to get into. My gosh.
Yeah, those and honestly, I'd say with the I don't want to say the invention, but with the introduction of companies like ours, TK1, also Alaska Airframes Alaska, they have a shock too now. With the introduction of actual dampened shocks, we're able to help them get in a little shorter as well, instead of having to grease it on or bouncing it. And obviously, if you're not on the ground, you can't get into the brake. So with the invention or the introduction of these shocks, you can kind of plan it and keep it there, as long as you keep forward stick pressure, and you can get in the brakes pretty quick and get stopped pretty short. So I think we've opened up a couple more areas for people to fly into, or at least have the guts to try.
Yeah, that's really cool. How do you even have this idea to do suspension? I mean, you have a construction background, and then you're building some wings. Did you have some type of mechanical engineering background of like construction of suspension?
So my buddy who I founded Acme with, Matt McSwain, he came out of the racing world. Automatically, we had some ends with different engineers, and he has a great engineering mind himself. But when we identified the issue, it's how can we solve this problem? So, and there was a whole lot to it. Obviously, performance with a bungee is not great, but then also when you have to replace those bungees, I mean, you literally put your life in your own hands sometimes, just because those things, if they snap off, you're going to hate life. So we saw a real opportunity to fix an issue. And once we got on a couple planes, it's funny. I'll tell this story quite often. Chuck Kinberger, who is the Florida dealer for Cub Crafters, we showed him a shock one time, and he says, "I'll never put that on my airplane." And I said, "Why won't you put it on your airplane?" He said, "It's going to break right there." And I said, "If we show you that it won't break right there, will you put it on your airplane?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll do that." So we went back and we built a fixture where we could press that shock and show him that what he had on his airplane was weaker than what we were going to provide for him. And we sent him the video. He said, "Send me a set of shocks." And he has been one of the biggest advocates ever since. So, I mean, it's just stuff like that of like, you have to get out there and you have to prove yourself. You have to beat down doors. And, people even the kids listen to this podcast right now. There's tons of no's out there, but it really just takes one yes. That's really all it takes. And something beautiful can happen out of it. So keep after it. That's what I got to say.
Yeah. You collect a lot of no's when you're selling something, especially when you're, I would almost argue that, doing what you did was a disruption, and something that was very static. status quo. And it's really funny. I've really seen this in other industries as well, that there's an inability for people to look past their own bias of what they're used to and what they're comfortable with, even if it's a superior product. And so even superior products can be extremely difficult to sell because there's a huge, this huge, idea bias, call it, of that, hey, I'm just doing what I'm doing because I've done it for 50 years. Right.
Yeah.
And so it even makes it even harder. So I love hearing success stories. And honestly, most entrepreneurs, I mean, look, it sounds like you guys have done quite well just in that venture, but a lot of entrepreneurs have multiple businesses before it works, right? And even for my business, aircraft sales, I don't know, if we call 1,000 people, maybe I get 10 deals, maybe.
Yeah.
And the rest is 990 no's.
Yeah.
Right. You got to be aggressive, and you got to be okay to collect those. And so, good on you guys for creating a superior product and then, showing people how it can benefit them. That's really neat.
Yeah. And like you said, we fought that. It's worked for 80 years. We're good. But honestly, just kind of putting yourself out there of like, here, take it. If you love it, buy it. If you hate it, send it back. If it breaks and tears up your airplane, then I don't know. I'm gonna change my number. I don't know. But
don't tell me.
Don't call me. But yeah, it's just taking those chances. I mean, you got to take those risks, and no risk, no reward, right? That's how we looked at it.
Yeah, I mean that's it, right? I mean that's entrepreneurialism summed up, right? Is that if you're willing to make or take a risk, calculated as it might be, then there could be a greater reward, right? And it's not always financial. For me, financially, there's definitely an incentive for me having my own business, but the time, right? Having, do I want some time off? I don't have to ask anyone, right? That's a nice benefit. That's a nice perk. And so I think if you're willing to take that risk, then you should have some nice reward from it. But it's a slog fest. And then you get to a point probably to where you're at now, and people look at you and say, man, they're lucky. Those guys are freaking lucky. And it's like, wow,
what luck is,
no, we were in the right position to receive the luck.
Yeah, that luck was bought and paid for. Believe that.
Yes. Exactly. So, good on you guys. Super cool. Well, the transition to kind of the meat and the taters of what I'm excited to talk about is Operation Helo. Here I am. I'm on the West Coast. News reports start coming in of this, horrible hurricane that's making its way up north and just absolutely destroying communities. My really good friend is from Asheville, North Carolina. I couldn't reach him for several days. Legitimately thought he was dead, honestly.
Yeah.
According to friends that I have there, the area just decimated.
Yes.
And then I start seeing on social media, these helicopters coming in. I think there's Garrett Mitchell, aka Cletus, was making some Facebook posts about coming up. So that was kind of, I think, the first time I heard of like a civilian guy going up.
Yeah.
And then I start seeing all of these other operators. And before you know it, there's like, I guess you can tell me the stats of how many helicopters actually showed up, but a full scale rescue cooperative of private helicopters. So, I guess I'm just curious of like, give me an hour before the storm hits, an hour after the storm hits, like give me just the whole rundown and breakdown of the first, call it 72 hours.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
First off, hurricanes aren't supposed to come that far inland. So nobody from Greenville, South Carolina, all the way up through past the mountains of North Carolina, nobody expected that. Nobody trains for that. Nobody prepares for that. It wasn't supposed to be a thing. And by the time it got there, it wasn't supposed to be as violent as it was or dump as much rain as it did. So in all honesty, we just kind of took it as that's the storm that's going to come through. And I live a little bit south of Charlotte. So I'm probably 2.5 hours from, as a 2.5 hour drive from the start of the affected zone. And I went without power for a few days. So we're kind of clueless as to how bad it was in the mountains. A good friend of ours who actually, he runs or is the chairman of the board of Operation Airdrop, who they use fixed wing airplanes to respond to hurricanes and natural disasters. He called and said, hey, it's really bad in Western North Carolina. We have to do something. So that's how it came to our attention. Like, we didn't have the TV, we didn't have the news, we didn't have anything. It came to our attention from an outside source. So again, my buddy from Acme, Matt McSwain, he actually took a flight up to the mountains and said, hey, it's really bad. What do we do? So we convened kind of a whole bunch of people into a meeting Sunday evening and said, all right, we're going to put the call out. Unfortunately, this is not an airplane mission. This is a helicopter mission. The roads are wiped out. The airports are wiped out. There's nowhere to land an airplane up there except for maybe Avery County. So this is going to have to be a helicopter mission. We all agree, everybody that's in the room, we all agree. Matt and I go to Hickory to set up shop because that was the closest airport, and it was a perfect scenario for what we were going to do. It had power, it had infrastructure, it had a tower, it also had an inactive runway. So it set up perfect for us to launch out of, to just start running. Like, we didn't even know what we were going to do. Honestly, we were like, we're going to have to help. So we can take in supplies, we can take in water, we can take in baby formula. We could go check on Aunt Nancy that nobody's seen in a couple of days. We being in the industry, and again, one of the perks of being in the industry, knowing a lot of people by this time, being in there for 15 years now, is we just kind of put the call out to a bunch of friends on social media and said, hey, we're gonna help. However, whatever it looks like, don't even know what it looks like yet, but we're going to fly missions to Western North Carolina from Hickory. Anybody that wants to come help, come do it. And we'll kind of figure it out as we go. And honestly, we thought we'd have maybe 5-10 helicopters the first day. We had 33 day one. So we learned very early on that people really, especially in the aviation community, this, but they want to help. They want to use their assets. They usually just don't know how. So we kind of provided that conduit of, this is how you can help. But along that same line is, people start showing up, just wanting to volunteer, just wanting to drop stuff off, just wanting to be a part in any way, shape, or form. So by the end of day one, we had an entire hangar full of water, diapers, baby formula, you name it, it was out there, non-perishable food items. So we were loading helicopters and just kind of taking them out. Well, it was also, again, you have to think there was 30 inches of rain dumped on the mountains of Western North Carolina. And that rain has to go somewhere. So it obviously goes to the lowest point. So, the flooding, the catastrophe, it was nothing short of biblical. It was just crazy. All communication was knocked out as well. The cool part about that is that all of a sudden, we have Starlinks showing up. Elon Musk says, we're going to provide Starlinks, however y'all can get them in there. So Ivanka Trump herself flew her jet, had her jet come in with her and her kids. And she was out there actually handing Starlinks to us. They filled the jet up. So we started dumping in Starlinks with, there were guys from the 82nd. They weren't specifically from the 82nd because they were in a volunteer status, but they were from the 82nd. They were like, hey, however you can use us, punch us in, do this. I'm like, okay, here's some Starlinks. Go set those up at the fire departments or the churches or however, to where we can get comms to figure out what the need is. So that's how it started. But from front to back, it's crazy that the people that showed up, just such high caliber people. I always go back to who is now our CTO, Tommy Daniel. He came in and he literally just wanted to go do cool guy stuff and get on a helicopter and, pull people out or make contact with Aunt Nancy to see if she's okay. Well, we learned that he's like this tech genius. So we're like, hey, we need you. Put him in Ops Center. And, by the end of day 2, we had gone from a paper map of Western North Carolina on a wall to a screen that's gridded, tracking our assets in real time. So it was just the way this mission evolved was insane.
That was one of the things that was crazy to me from the very beginning when I'm watching this, mainly through social media at that time, was I've never seen anything like it, right? I've never seen a civilian response. Honestly, my first question is where was the government?
Yeah.
I still don't fully understand that side of all of this, because I've been around, like I said in the top of the show, I lived outside of the Kerrville area for a long time in the hill country. That flooding that happened recently was fairly biblical, but it wasn't uncommon to get, I experienced some doozies, and we had a horrible event, I think 10 years ago, where on the Blanco River, I think 13 or 14 people died, horrible flooding, big rain. And I had an R44 at that time, but I couldn't do anything. They wouldn't let me in to do, and I remember this guy showing up to our LZ in Fredericksburg with a stack of cash this big saying, whatever it takes, go save my family. And I'm like, dude, I don't care about the money, but they won't let me in. It's a TFR and I can't get in. I can't do shit. I'm sorry. And so that was my first thought about all this. So how did you guys navigate TFR, government involvement? How did you guys even get into a point where these civilian helicopter owners and operators were actually allowed to come in and provide the critical care missions that ended up occurring?
So I think this thing got so big so fast that they couldn't shut it down. I think that's honestly the reason. And that's ultimately kind of what I go back to. We all know that the government, it takes a while for it to spool up, right? The response isn't always immediate, especially since it caught everybody so off guard. And, everybody wanted to trash FEMA, and FEMA has its issues, but we were asking FEMA to do what it's not even built to do, right? So this was a National Guard thing. But again, nobody was ready for it. So we were there first on the scene. By the time it was all said and done, over the course of the 11 days, we had over 160 unique end numbers that had flown missions for us. Okay, so you have to think about that there were numerous times that the National Guard came in, or the FAA came in early. We actually invited them in early. And we're like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. And they were like, okay, well, here's 40 squat codes. Just have your guys squat this. So that's how we got in and out, and why we were allowed to go in and out. But I think the FAA also saw that we had proper ingress and egress routes. We ran this thing like a military mission without the military red tape. We had pilot check-in, we had pilot check-out. We put timestamps on missions to where if they weren't back by a certain time, then we're going to send up the bat signal and see what happened to these guys. We were keeping track of our assets in real time. Again, we had pilot brief and pilot debrief to where if let's just say a call came in and it was Aunt Sally, and nobody had seen Aunt Sally in 3 days. So we had volunteers that would get Aunt Sally's address, and then they would make it into coordinates. And so we'd give the lat longs on an index card to a pilot, and he would kind of look at the area, and he had, obviously, his pilot discretion. He had the opportunity to say, that's above my skill level. Let's hand it to somebody else. Or, I'm comfortable taking that mission. So I think the FAA saw that, and they got on board with us pretty quick. Again, the National Guard kind of came in a few times, and this is kind of a funny story. There's a colonel that I'm walking him around, and he was like, tell me what's going on here. And this is the height of the mission. And their goal was to come in and literally take over for us. And I said, great, y'all of the National Guard, do it. Like, take over. We're tired. We've been at this thing for, 17 hours each day, and we're tired. Like, let's do it. So I'm walking him around. I said, okay, this is pilot check-in, check-out. This is mission vetting. This is mission brief. This is mission debrief. This is ArcGIS. This is how we're keeping track of everything in real time, seeing where everything is. These are the hot spots of, does this area need aid, or is it saturated with aid? What do they need? Again, it was a colonel from the North Carolina Army National Guard. And he said, stop. Are you John Robinson's boy? And I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, this is a little surreal that John Robinson's boy could do all this. And I said, thank you or not. I don't know. Maybe thank you, maybe not. Like, what are we saying here? But ultimately, he said, and he walked away and he said, look, we'll run missions for you guys. If we took it over right now, we would just mess it up. So we're going to run missions for you. So we had the North Carolina Army National Guard running missions for us. We had the Maine National Guard down on a drill weekend, and they had it figured out. They came down on a drill exercise to where they could just do anything and everything they wanted to. So that was cool. But again, that's kind of how we got in and out of the area. It got really big, really fast. I mean, we had an actual medical side. We took over the old FBO at Hickory, rented the snack bar to where we could have medicine in a cooler. So anybody that needed to be triaged, we would send the helicopter over to the old FBO. We'd pull them in and we would assess any kind of need that they had. So we had medical there. We had, we had supply. It got really big, really fast, very organic. And again, I can't stress enough just the talent that was around us. No one person can take credit for any of this. The talent that was around us was just insane. I always go back to who is now our operations director. She started in the call center, and she just showed up. Her and her husband just showed up wanting to volunteer. Started in the call center, started running the call center, came over to ops, started running ops. So it's like the cream always rises to the top, but just the talent that was around us was insane.
That's incredible. I mean, the response really, was a real source of pride for helicopters. I think I was talking about it during that whole situation, and I've said it many times before on the show that, helicopters have a bit of a PR problem. So Operation Helo is the opposite of that. It's such a PR win for helicopters because it actually shows the world exactly how utilitarian helicopters are.
Yeah.
And the fact that any helicopter, not just the cool military ones that we usually see doing these types of missions, but something even like a Robinson helicopter can go out and impact someone's life in a very positive way. And, something that I was told actually early on is, in fact, the civilian, call it the Robinson or the Bell product, was doing really fantastic during these missions because of the size. It's a smaller aircraft, could get into tighter spaces. Talk to me a little bit about just the footprint of the aircraft specifically.
Yeah, so obviously we had some heavies, we had some 60s, we had some private 60s, we even had Chinooks flying for us. But the large majority and the large percentage were Robinsons, mostly 44s. And, I think it was really, we were new to this, right? But I think it was really cool for not only the operators, but even the government officials, the state, the National Guard, even local officials, to see the importance of that particular helicopter. You can get a Robinson into places that 60s aren't even allowed to try. So that the Robinson was really honestly the backbone of the mission. You could load it up with tons of and stuff that we didn't even think about, like insulin for that matter, like oxygen, diapers, baby formula. Like you can load those things up with with those products and get them out to people, and you can literally drop them on their basically in their front yard. There was one story. There was a lady who, it was simply a wellness check, but she hadn't spoken, heard from, seen, talked to anybody in 7 days. And, there was a Robinson landed in her side yard, just came out and said, hey, we're here to check on you. Is everything okay? Are you good? I mean, she broke down into tears because she hadn't had human contact in 7 days. She thought the world was ending.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that helicopter was instrumental, and even to carry on to the response in Texas. We flew out of Burnett County, and there was that TFR there around Kerrville. Um, and we even contacted DPS initially, and they were like, "Look, there's no more assets going into Kerrville. Like, there's a TFR. We're actually moving stuff out." And we simply said, "We are here if you need us." Well, right about that time, Burnett County reached out and they were like, "Hey, we don't have anything. We need some help." So we asked how many they needed. We need 6 helicopters. So we provided 6 helicopters. They were actually sitting there waiting. They trailered them in, or they trailered their Robinson 44s in, and they were waiting on weather to lift. And as soon as weather lifted, they flew. So again, it really showcased that a Robinson 44 or a 66 isn't just hop in and go get a cheeseburger. The National Guard there in Texas, when they showed up, they were like, "Who are you guys?" And our ops director, Natasha, she said, "We're Operation Helo." And it was almost like they already knew us and they were like, "Oh, okay, keep doing what you're doing." But they saw the opportunity for us to kind of play nice together, because we're dropping National Guard soldiers in ourselves because the 60s couldn't get in there. So now, because of that response, we have a plan with Texas to play nice and to deploy with them if something like that happens. So, I mean, again, kudos to the Robinson and even all those products, the Bell, the smaller Bells and all that. That was really the backbone of the response in Hickory.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And like I said, a big win for helicopters, right? We had Kobe, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. Not a good win for us. And Operation Helo, big win. Helicopters provide so much, and I talk about this all the time, not just to the infrastructure. I think everything that we touch has somewhere along the supply chain, there's a helicopter. And then when it comes to like life-saving measures, whether it's, your standard, air medical, which I used to fly, or if it's a situation like this where it's like legitimate, say emergency style search and rescue and whatnot. I mean, helicopters are just the best tool for the job. So it's really cool to see you guys mobilize and successfully, impact so many lives. What is one of the most memorable rescues that you guys performed at Operation Helo?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
So I would say, when you look at the stats, right? Like I said, we had over 160 unique end numbers. We flew in more than 2 million pounds of aid. I think the big one is we pulled out more than 400 people.
Wow.
Everybody thinks pulling people out. We were long lining and we were pulling people off roofs. That wasn't it. It was the people that hadn't seen anybody for 4 or 5 days, who thought literally that they were maybe going to not see anybody or starve to death or just run out of resources, not have any water. That was the biggest impact. It was nothing super glamorous, but all extremely necessary. So I would say, to me, there's 430, more than 430 people. There's statistics, but those are people, and their lives were literally saved and literally changed because of the power of aviation and helicopters, for that matter. So I think every single one of those is a huge win for us.
What an impact, right? I mean, that is huge numbers, huge stats. And such a cool thing. Such a cool thing that it's turned into a thing, right? Operation Helo now exists. So how did that kind of spawn? Who was was it you and Matt that were like, hey, we got to... we got to turn this into like, we got to keep doing this, or?
So there were quite a few people involved, myself and Matt, obviously Tony Marks, who is now the chairman of our board. I mean, I could go on. There's a list of Brad Womble. There were tons of people involved, right? So I think about day 3. In a situation like this, in the country, honestly, the country really rallied behind us. I mean, we were on the Hannity show. We were on, tons of news, the Good Morning Americas and the Fox and Friends and all that. The country really rallied behind us. So with a lot of that came a lot of donations. So about day 2, we were like, hey, we've got to have a nonprofit, number one, just to kind of keep track of this money, make sure it gets allocated to Western North Carolina. But I think we have something here that I think we've shown that we have the right people around us, but that this community is just so generous with their time, with their assets, with their abilities, that it would almost be a disservice if we didn't try to carry this on in some way, shape, or form. So we immediately started the whole nonprofit paperwork and all that on day 2. And it was the small donations that added up to, it was the $5, the $20, $25. There was one lady who she came to say, we had security at the Hickory airport, and like you had to actually give a password to get in and get out. And this lady said, I am here to give a donation. I want to see the person in charge, and I'm not giving it to anybody else. So of course they're like, oh, wow, this is something big, right? So they pull me out and they're like, hey, this lady has this donation. And she handed me $10, which to me, I was like, this is really awesome. Like that was probably, that stretched her, I'm sure. But to me, I think that $10 gets stretched into $1,000. But anyway, long story short, we realized that we had something. We knew that we had to tweak it. We knew that we had to automate a bunch of these processes. But if we did, then we could be a huge value add in any type of disaster. So we kind of cut our teeth with Helene. We responded to the flooding in West Virginia and Virginia at Grundy. Didn't fly there, but we did offer supplies. But then obviously with the whole Texas response, we learned and have learned and are learning that this community is so generous. They want to be involved. And so we want to give them that outlet to be involved. So that's kind of how Operation Helo has continued. I'll also say that we have, we had a lot of funds allocated to Western North Carolina. We knew, being boots on the ground there, of the destruction. We knew that people were living in tents and in cars because they had literally lost everything. So we pivoted after our initial, let's just say phase 1 response of the immediate helicopter mission. We pivoted and started providing travel campers just to get people out of tents and out of cars. And so by the time our camper program was done, we call that our temporary shelter phase 2. By the time that was done, we had provided 221 travel campers to families to get them out of tents, get them out of cars, and into at least a bed with heat. But now we have 220 families in temporary shelter that we have to get them into permanent shelter. So we're still in Western North Carolina, still heavily involved in the long-term recovery there in Western North Carolina, and we'll be there for the foreseeable future. We made a promise that we weren't leaving until they kicked us out or we ran out of money. So we're still there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to me, there's no wonder that, one of the reasons why we're recording this podcast is because you, in Operation Helo, is a recipient of the Blades of Valor, put on by Valor Magazine and MHM Publishing. And so this will be going into the mega issue coming out in October. And we're going to have this collab with the podcast. So just hearing everything that you're saying, the type of person you are, what a cool thing, to be able to present to you of this Blades of Valor. And I don't think there's a person or an organization that really exemplifies exactly what that award is all about. So, congratulations on that. And what an amazing thing. I've recorded a couple podcasts today and I've had some neat conversations. And kind of the common denominator today for me, I don't know why it worked out this way, is like it's proving that humanity is truly good. And I think that you guys in your operation is an example that we live in a shitty world sometimes, and there's some really bad things that are going on. But there's also some really incredible stories and some incredible people doing amazing things. And I think that Operation Helo is exemplifying that. And if we could all just live a little bit more humanely and support each other, like you guys have proven to support your community in North Carolina and other communities all over Virginia and now Texas, and I'm guessing many, many more communities to come, then the world would truly be a better place. So, just on behalf of humanity, I speak for everyone. Thank you for just doing the right thing. Super cool. And it seems like you guys are really taking this to the next level. And I have no doubt that it's going to continue to do wonderful things. Let's close up with this collaboration with Robinson. Obviously, you guys just had a kind of a co-branded aircraft at Air Adventure. I was not there, unfortunately. I'm covering the R88 reveal at Verticon this year, and David Smith is talking about Operation Helo on his keynote. And I'm thinking, holy crap, what's going on? So what is this collaboration like? And what are you excited regarding your relationship specifically with an OEM, Robinson Helicopters?
So I tell you what, just to be partnered with them is a huge honor, just in and of itself. They have been literally fantastic in that basically they say, what do you need? The answer is yes. Just let us know the need. So I can't speak highly enough of David Smith, of Robin, the whole team over there. They're all fantastic. But I say more than anything, the bulk of our fleet, the highest percentage of our fleet is Robinson helicopters. So it only makes sense for us to collaborate with them. Safety is a big thing for us. We were very fortunate in the fact that we flew thousands of missions during Helene. We flew over the course of 2 days in Texas. We flew 101 missions. And so far, our safety record, we have 0 incidents. We want to keep that going. So when someone signs up and when someone becomes an Operation Helo pilot, they get access to higher level training. And that's proper ingress and egress, confined areas, how to fly with government agencies, even review stuff like inadvertent IMC, the biggest killer in aviation. So Robinson is partnered with that, from a safety perspective on these courses with us as well. So, I mean, just honestly, the collaboration, the partnership, it only makes sense, but I cannot speak highly enough of those guys. They're they are our biggest cheerleader, and they probably hype us up more than we do. We're pretty bad at it. I'll just be honest. Like we're kind of put our head down and we just try to respond, but they're over there kind of, cheering us on and getting us out to the world. So it's been incredible.
Well, I think it's exciting for them, right? I think I talked to David about it, that, it was a crazy thing for me to see. I think it was actually, I'm trying to think of them. When was Helene? What month was that?
That was the end of September. We're coming up on the anniversary, September 28th.
Yeah. So it was that year. It was in Europe. I was doing an in-person podcast with David. We talked a lot about the response, and there was a slight, it's not funny, but a slight irony to the fact that Robinson Helicopters, this very polarizing brand within the helicopter world that gets shit on a lot by a lot of people, played such a vital role. I think there was something ironic about that. And I think Robinson recognizes that. I think David's smart enough to see that, man, this is amazing. Like, look at what our helicopters are truly capable of doing.
Yeah.
For 50 years, people have been saying that we're shit, and we're underslung and we're low inertia and this, whatever it is. 2 blades. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And here it is now, out there saving lives and doing rescue missions. I mean, I think it was a big victory for Robinson. So it makes sense to me. And I think it's awesome that they've seized that opportunity to see this as a future tool to continue to allow the Robinson platform to do cool things.
Yeah.
And it's good for humanity and it's good for the brand. It's really a win-win collaboration with you and Robinson. Super cool.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership. We couldn't have done this without them. As a matter of fact, right here in a little while, we are going to take 3 Robinsons, fly a game ball into the Little League World Series, deliver the game ball with actually a baseball player from Burnsville. He's on the high school baseball team. He's going to deliver the game ball for the Little League World Series, and 3 Robinsons right here in a minute. So this is going to be really cool.
How cool, man. That's so cool. Yeah. Well, hey, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If people want to get involved on the flying side, or if they want to become a charitable sponsor for Operation Helo, what is the best way for people to get in touch?
OperationHelo.org. OperationHelo.org. That's our website. You can get pretty much anything there. You can get in contact with us. We're signing up pilots. We have over 200 in the network now. We obviously want to grow that. Yeah. So anyway, any opportunity to get involved is there on the website, OperationHelo.org.
OperationHelo.org. Eric, what a cool conversation to hear directly from you on that firsthand experience of Helene and how this all came together. It's like this could be a movie. Is there a movie in the works or what? I mean, come on. This is like there's a Hollywood script somewhere in here, right?
I mean, Brad Pitt can play me if we can do that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I was going to suggest The Rock, but okay.
That's fine too. Whatever works. Yeah.
Well, to our listeners, thank you guys so much for listening and supporting the Helicopter Podcast. If you are a Robinson owner operator, you want to get involved, check out OperationHelo.org. I said that correctly, right? OperationHelo.org.
Yep.
And get involved. It makes total sense to me that helicopter pilots want to do this stuff because, look, at the end of the day, not only are you saving lives, but it's fun, right? Like this is what helicopter pilot doesn't want to go on missions and use your skill to help people. It's kind of a no-brainer that this worked. The part that's crazy to me is how well you guys executed it, Eric, and that your safety record is still impeccable. Let's keep it that way. So if you're an owner operator, not just of a Robinson, but of any helicopter, you should really reach out to Eric and the team over at OperationHelo.org and become a pilot, become a supporter. If you don't have a helicopter, maybe this could be a not-for-profit that you would like to support. I think it's actually something that we're going to do and highly consider over at Celicopter. And so I encourage you to do the same thing. To MHM Publishing, thank you so much for providing this platform. Such a neat thing that we have here at Vertical HeliCASTS and all the awesome podcasts, and to be able to do cool collaborations where there's written articles and then there's podcasts to kind of collaborate together, just like today's episode with Eric. So super cool. To our listeners, you guys rock. Eric, thank you for joining the Helicopter Podcast.
Hey, we can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you helping get our calls out. And man, keep doing what you do, man. We love what you do.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Eric.
Thank you, buddy.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
At Astronautics, we're aviation problem solvers. With over 60 years of OEM and retrofit experience, bring us your toughest avionics, connectivity, cybersecurity, and system challenges. We'll work with you to find an innovative, reliable, and quality solution. We turn problems into solutions. Visit us at astronautics.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.